They came without warning. On a quiet night, Earth's skies lit up not with stars or storms, but with alien fire. One by one, the stars vanished behind them. A fleet of black curved ships appeared in orbit, casting long shadows over Earth. The Varn Dominion had arrived. They were not here to talk. They were not here to study. They came to conquer. Inside the Varn command ship, High Commander Eshrock stood tall. His face was smooth, silver-skinned, with cold yellow eyes that never blinked. "This planet looks calm," he said. "To calm. Good. It means they don't expect us." His second-in-command. Toriel glanced at the readings. No defense systems in orbit. No warp-capable fleets. Primitive radio signals. Weak technology. Shrock smiled. "Then we will take it by sunset." Back on Earth, cities around the globe saw the ships within seconds. Satellites were jammed. Signals went dark. The internet blinked once and then, half the world lost. Connection, people panicked. Governments scrambled, and far beneath the surface, something old stirred. Inside a hidden military bunker under the Nevada desert, alarms blared red. General Wren stood at the center of a steel room, staring at a silent screen. The screen showed one thing: Earth's upper orbit filled with Varn. "Ships, they're here," he said. A young officer asked, "Sir, do we launch the nukes?" Wren shook his head. "Won't help. Their shields will eat them alive." Another officer said quietly, "What about the protocol?" Wren didn't answer for a moment. Then slowly he turned to a second console, this one older, covered in dust. With a key slot that hadn't been used in 73 years, he inserted a code key. The screen turned blue. "Activate Omega countdown," said. Every technician in the room froze. "But, sir, we were told it was experimental and stable." Wren looked them dead in the eye. "We were also told it wasn't real. But I've seen it. I know what we buried." And with that, Omega Protocol began. Across the planet. Secret underground chambers powered on machines woke up machines no one had touched since before the first human expansion. Engines, reactors, unknown weapons, things that didn't come from any known nation, and in Antarctica. One of the deepest bunkers flickered with life. Inside, a glass cylinder began to crack open. A heartbeat echoed through the metal. Meanwhile, in low orbit, the Varn were preparing their ground assault. Eshrock stood tall at the command deck. "Send the dropships. Start with the rural zones. Avoid cities for now. I want this planet alive when we take it." Toril frowned. "Sir, strange energy readings, coming from the southern pole, spiking rapidly." Eshrock waved it off. "Probably Earth's broken tech reacting to our arrival." But it wasn't broken tech. It was something else. Back underground, General Wren stood in silence as a voice echoed from the speakers. "Female.com, not robotic, not human. Omega system online," it said. "Authorization accepted. Defense. Sequence initiated." A tech whispered, "Sir, it's real. It's responding." Another said, "Power levels. These are off the scale. Nothing we've built can handle this." Wren stared at the monitor, showing a vault door opening under Antarctica. Inside was something glowing, something alive. "Let's hope they have no idea what we're about to unleash," Wren said. Because Earth wasn't helpless. It had been waiting, and now the battle had begun. Antarctica was always cold. But tonight, it was silent. Snow blew across the frozen plains while the stars above flickered strangely. Hidden beneath that ice, a vault older than any war, any map, or any flag began to open. Metal plates slid apart, steam hissed, and inside, something moved. It wasn't a human, not anymore, in the Nevada bunker. General Wren watched the Omega countdown. 0 hours, 19 minutes, and 58 seconds. The timer glowed red. One technician asked, "Sir, what happens when the timer hits 0? Wren stared at the blinking lights. "No one knows," he said. "That's why we never used it before." Another officer added, "The Omega files say it was built after Contact 0, but we were never told who built it or what it's protecting." Wren nodded. because it wasn't made by just humans. In Antarctica, the vault's walls pulsed. Blue. Lights followed a circular pattern around the glass chamber. Inside, a body floated in green mist. Humanoid, but taller. Sleeveless arms, marked with glowing lines. A metal spine. The face, smooth, expressionless, with a faint silver glow behind closed eyelids. Then its fingers twitched, its chest moved, it breathed. The capsule hissed again and opened its feet. Touched the ground silently. The being opened its eyes. No panic, no confusion, just focus. Its voice spoke, a single word, soft and strange. Not English, not alien. But the vault understood. It responded by opening every sealed door in the facility. It was time high in Earth's orbit. Aboard the Varn flagship, Commander Ashrock paced. "We're losing visuals from the southern pole," Toril said. "Atmospheric interference." Ashrock frowned. "They don't have tech that can block our scans." "Then it's not their tech," Toril whispered. Before they could speak further, warning lights flashed. "Incoming energy spike," shouted a Varn engineer. "Massive. Origin Antarctica. Show me." On screen, a glowing shape shot upward from the pole so fast it blurred through sensors. "Is it a missile?" Ashrock barked. "No," the technician replied. "It's flying."
Ow. But it's not a ship.
The glowing shape passed through the clouds and stopped. Mid-dash air, floating. Watching, then it vanished. Straight up it passed through the nearest Varn cruiser like a ghost. And when it did, every system on board shut down. Engines dead. Gravity was failing. Weapons frozen. The ship drifted powerless. Inside the command ship, Ashrock screamed, "What is that thing?" But no one answered, because they didn't know. Back in Nevada, Ren stared at the countdown. 0 hours, 13 minutes, and 7 seconds, and then the vault cameras lit up. They saw the being standing on the ice, not running, not hiding, waiting. Ren stepped back. "That's him." "Is he a young officer?" asked. Ren replied slowly. "The last thing Earth built, with help from those who came before." The being looked to the stars, eyes glowing faintly blue. He wasn't a weapon. He was a warning. And now he was awake. The being stood on the ice as if the cold didn't touch him. Wind howled around his bare arms, but he didn't move, didn't need to. In the sky above, Varn ships hovered like dark birds, but not one dared to fire again. They had already seen. What happened when they tried? Inside the lead Varn ship, Commander Ashrock gripped the edge of his chair. "It moved through solid metal," he growled. "It didn't attack with weapons. It didn't even try." His voice trembled for the first time in years. Toril beside him whispered, "I don't think it was meant to kill us. I think it was meant to warn us." But Ashrock wasn't ready to be warned. He was ready to win. "Prepare the ground strike." He ordered, "We take the being out. It bleeds, or we burn Earth down." Underground, General Ren watched the figure through satellite feeds. "He's not responding," said the technician. "We've sent for signals." No reply. "He doesn't need us," Ren said. "He remembers his purpose," another officer asked. "But who is he? Where did he come from?" Ren looked at the frozen screen for a long time. Then he spoke. 70. Years ago, during Earth's last great war, something appeared over the Pacific. A ship. Not Varn, not human. It was different, he continued. Inside was a man. He looked human, but he wasn't. He spoke our language. Saved 2 cities by just standing between them and the fire. The officer's voice shook. "Is him?" Ren nodded. "We called him the Omega Asset. We asked him who he was. He only said, 'I am what remains.' Then he asked to sleep." "Why?" Ren's eyes narrowed. "Because he said one day something worse would come, and when it did, he needed to be ready." The Varn ground forces landed near Antarctica. 3 sleek transports slammed into the snow and opened with hisses of gas. Dozens of Varn soldiers stepped out, armored and armed. They saw the figure standing in the open. No shield, no ship. No weapon, just him. They aimed. He didn't move, and then the air around him bent. The snow lifted. and time seemed to pause. The first shot was fired. It never hit. It stopped midair, frozen in place. The being raised his hand slowly. The snow fell back down, and every soldier's weapon was melted. Not burned, not broken. Melted as if rewritten. Inside the Varn command ship, Eshrock shouted, "Pull them out!" But the ground feed went black. Toril whispered, "He's not just powerful. He controls reality." On Earth in the Nevada Command Center, the countdown finally hit. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. Everyone braced, but there was no explosion. No signal. No alert. Just a single message on screen. He is awake. Let them come. Ren looked at it and smiled sadly. He was never our weapon. The technician looked confused. Then what is he? Ren whispered. He's Earth's memory. The storm above Antarctica was silent now. No wind, no movement. Only one figure stood on the ice calm, glowing faintly blue. The Omega Asceti didn't speak. He didn't run. He waited. And high above him, the Varna Empire's warships hovered, afraid to come closer. Inside the Varn command ship, Commander Eshrock stared at the black screens. "Status on our ground teams?" "Gone," said Toril. "No life signs, no comes, no wreckage." Eshrock's fists tightened. He erased them. Toril replied quietly. He rewrote the field, like they never existed. Shrock growled. "Then we erase him. Prepare orbital strike." Toril flinched. "Sir, that will destroy 1/10 of the planet," Eshrock snarled. "Then we turn Earth into glass." But just as the order was given, every screen inside the ship flickered, a voice calm. Deep, not machine, spoke through every system. "This planet remembers." The temperature dropped inside the warship, even in space, in Nevada Command. General Wren watched in silence. The screens showed strange signals around. Earth's surface, not weapons, not radiation, patterns glowing energy. Veins were rising from ancient ground. One scientist gasped. "Sir, there's something under the crust." "Everywhere." Another shouted. "These aren't natural. These are built." Wren nodded slowly. "We found only one of him, but he was never alone." The Omega asset raised both hands to the sky. "And from the Earth," light answered. Mountains glowed. Rivers shimmered. Something deep below activated, and the skies trembled. Back on the Varn ship, alarms rang out. "We're detecting movement underground, multiple sites. Massive energy. Unknown structures." Eshrock's voice shook. "What are they?" Toril stared at the screen. "Not weapons. It's not ships. They're memories." "Explain." "Sir, this world isn't just defending itself. It's remembering itself. And we're standing in the way." In orbit, beams of light shot upward from the planet, piercing the clouds, not as weapons, as signals. One beam struck a distant moon. Another reached past the solar system messages, summons. Something or someone was being called. The Omega asset spoke again. Earth was never just a planet. It was a vault. And now, the vault opens. The Earth was glowing, not with fire, not with war, but with memory. Lines of light ran across deserts, under oceans, and through mountains like veins, awakening in an ancient body. The Varn fleet watched from orbit. Frozen in place, no one had seen anything like it. Commander Eshrock stared at the data in disbelief. "What is this planet?" Toril's voice was low. "It's not just a world, it's a system, a living vault." Eshrock growled. "A vault for what?" Deep below the surface, something began to shift. Hidden cities buried before the first human walked, rose from beneath the soil. Chambers, towers unfolded from underwater craters. Each one pulsed with the same energy as the Omega asset. These weren't weapons. They were memories, preserved pieces of something long forgotten. General, Ren watched satellite feeds in stunned silence. The screen zoomed in on Africa's western coast. Mountains split open. A staircase that led to a pulsing blue orb. Scientists scrambled. One gasped. "It's not a reactor, it's a library." A biological archive. Another said, same readings coming from Antarctica, the Amazon, and under the Himalayas. Ren spoke quietly. It's Earth's inheritance. What does it mean? A tech asked. Ren answered, it means humans weren't the first. The Omega asset stood in the middle of the snowfield, now surrounded by columns of light. Rising from the earth, he raised one hand slowly. The snow around him floated, and from behind him, 4 more shapes appeared, not guardians, not humans, but like him, tall, silent, each with glowing lines down their arms, each awakened from different places. The first generation in orbit. Varn ships turned weapons toward the light towers. Eshrock shouted, destroy them all. Plasma cannons powered up, but before they could fire, every system shut down. The lights on the ship dimmed, the engines failed, and then something spoke. Not through speakers. Through thought, directly into the minds of every Varn on every ship. You were warned. You did not listen. Now you will remember too. One Varn soldier collapsed to the floor. Clutching his head, he saw visions, a city in the clouds. People, human-like and alien, walking side by side, peace, then war. Something came from deep space and burned it all. Only Earth remained, a seed buried and protected, and now blooming again. Eshrock stood trembling. What are these things? Toril stared at the frozen controls. They're not machines. Then what? Toril looked up. They're survivors. The Omega asset and his kind raised their arms, and the sky answered, not with weapons, not with death, but with light. The vault had opened, and Earth was no longer alone. The sky over Earth was no longer blue. It shimmered with streaks of light gold. Blue and white rising from the ground like beams from another world. The Omega asset stood at the center of it all around him. For others stood calm, glowing. Ancient each had been buried beneath Earth's surface, waiting for a time of war. Now, they had awakened. In orbit, the Varn fleet was helpless. Their ships floated dead and drifting. No engines, no control, weapons. Commander Eshrock stood frozen, watching the main screen. It showed the Earth glowing its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. It's not a defense system, he muttered. Tora stood beside him, pale. Then what is it? Answer came from nowhere and everywhere. A voice soft, deep. Older than language filled their minds. You thought you came to conquer, but you came to witness. Back on Earth? General Wren and his staff listened as satellites captured the same voice. It was not human, it was not alien, but it spoke with purpose, long before humans. This planet was chosen. Buried deep within its core was a memory of what came before and what must come again. One scientist whispered, Sir, the light, it's not just energy, it's information. Another said the beams are transmitting across star systems. This isn't just Earth signal, it's the signal of something older, something returning. In the Arctic, the Omega asset looked to the sky as space shimmered. He wasn't just waking his brothers, he was unlocking a signal across the galaxy. The others raised their hands. Their voices joined as one. Not shouting, not singing, but speaking. A coda called out in a distant star system long beyond the reach of any empire. Something stirred. A ring-shaped structure lit up for the first time in 10,000 years. Inside it, lights came on. Engines warmed. Doors unlocked. It had been waiting for one. Sound, and now. It had heard it. The Earth signal had reached it, and it would answer, Commander. Eshrock stared at the sensor logs in panic. Something massive is coming. Toril replied from outside mapped space. It's responding to Earth. What is it? Eshrock demanded. Toril whispered, not a fleet, not a weapon, a vessel. But not like anything we know. The Omega asset closed his eyes. His voice, calm, echoed into the wind. The first light has returned. You thought Earth was weak, but Earth remembers. And above the clouds, a shape began to form. Far away, beyond moons and dust, but heading straight for home, not an army, not a god, but something no one expected. And when it arrived, I think the galaxy would stay the same, far beyond Earth's orbit. Deep in the black between galaxies, signal echoed, not noise, not language, something older, a frequency tied to Earth's hidden vaults. It's now fully awake, and something answered. It wasn't a ship knot in the way empires build them. It was a vessel. Shaped like a spiral star, its surface shimmered like molten glass. It had no engines, but it moved fast, controlled, heading straight for Earth. Inside the Varn command ship, Commander Eshrock stared at the data. "Impossible," he whispered. "Not natural." His ship's eye, barely working, delivered the analysis. Structure, unknown. Technology, unrecognizable. Power, immeasurable. Toro leaned close. "It didn't come from Earth," Eshrock said, voice trembling. "It was called by Earth." On the surface, the Omega asset stood perfectly still as the sky cracked open. Above the clouds, the spiral vessel emerged, beautiful and terrifying. Its light reached every corner of the planet. Cities froze, oceans calmed, animals looked. Skyward. The world itself held its breath. And then, the vessel spoke not in sound, in memory, everyone humans. Varn, soldiers, leaders, saw the same vision. A planet burning, a galaxy collapsing, a final escape, and a single world. It's untouched, buried deep in darkness Earth. In the Nevada bunker, General. Ren dropped his coffee. The screens all changed symbols no one had seen before, but somehow, they made sense. One officer whispered, "Sir, they're star charts. Old ones." Another said, "Those systems, they don't exist anymore." Ren stared at the spiral ship's image. "They weren't showing us maps," he said. "They're showing us graves." The vessel slowed above Earth and opened, not with weapons, with light. A soft beam landed on the Omega asset. He closed his eyes and vanished. Lifted upward, the other four followed. Earth didn't resist it, released them, because this was never about war. It was about what came next. On the Varn command ship, alarms screamed. Massive energy surged from the spiral vessel. Sits rewriting nearby space. Eshrock grabbed Torel. "What does it want?" Torel stared at Earth, now glowing like a second sun. "It doesn't want revenge," he said. "It wants balance." From the spiral vessel came a message across. Every frequency. You saw Earth as prey, but Earth was chosen. Now, choose, remain, or forget. And then the stars shifted. Literally, some constellations blinked out. Others appeared time-bent. Space rippled. The vessel wasn't just flying, it was changing the map of reality, and Earth was at the center. The stars didn't move. They were moved, the spiral-shaped. Vessel now floating silently above Earth was not just a ship. It was an instrument, key, and it was turning. Galactic coordinates shifted. Constellations rotated like gears. Planets once charted by empires vanished from. Long-range sensors. Earth now sat at the center of a new map, one only the oldest civilizations had ever seen, the map of the first light. Inside the vessel, the Omega asset opened his eyes. He stood in a white, endless chamber. The other four stood beside him. In front of them was not a throne, or a god, or a weapon. It was a mirror, but this mirror didn't show their reflections. It showed Earth's billions of years ago, lush, empty, watched, and above it hovered this very ship, waiting for the species that would prove itself not with force. With memory, a voice filled the room, not words. Understanding. You were born from ashes, but you did not forget the fire, you remembered. On Earth, General Ren stepped outside the Nevada base for the first time in days. Above, the sky shimmered blue, but there were no Varn ships. Every one of them was gone, not destroyed, not killed, moved somewhere else. The Varn fleet awoke near a dead star in an unmapped region of space. Their systems offline, their weapons gone, and one message burned into every console: you were spared. learn back. On Earth, the light from the spiral vessel dimmed. Its job was done, but it didn't leave. It merged, piece by piece. It dissolved into the atmosphere, the oceans. The core its memory became Earth's, and the Omega Asset and his kin returned not as warriors, but as guides in cities across the planet. People looked up and saw strange lines glowing across the sky like constellations, rewritten, but they weren't stars. They were pathways to something new, to something next. General Wren watched as children, gathered in parks, pointing at the sky with wonder instead of fear. A tech approached him. "Sir, are we safe now?" Wren nodded. "We were never truly in danger," he said. "Why?" the tech asked. Wren looked at the glowing horizon because this world was never weak, just waiting. A final message appeared across all screens. "This is not the end of the galaxy. It's the start of its memory." The battle began, and humanity unleashed something no one expected, a truth powerful enough to reshape the stars.